Okay, now looking at our language arts skills, our standard is that we will learn to use words. That's what this use terms or words such as chapter, scene, and stanza to refer to parts of stories. So chapters are parts of a story. Scenes are parts of a play, and stanzas are parts of poems. And then describe how each of those parts, so each scene builds on the next one, or each chapter builds on the next part. Last week we learned that a play is broken down into scenes and that each scene provides information that helps the reader understand the next part or the next scene. So we learned in the first scene when the boys and girls decided what they were going to do for their project, and then they decided how they were going to go about that. They planned to go down to the antique store and look for an artifact. Then they planned how to get there. So they brought Ty's big sister Gwen in the first scene. And this was very important because in scene 2 and scene 3, she was very instrumental. She took them to the antique store. She had to be the one who ended up dealing with Mr. Nam and buying the trunk that they found because he didn't take the kids seriously. Then once they got the trunk home, Gwen had to unlock it. They could not get it unlocked. And then Gwen was very instrumental in helping them finish that project. Molly, who in scene 1, they told us she was the brains of the operation. Once they got all of the artifacts or the military equipment and items out of the trunk, Molly, because she is so interested in history and military, she knew what they all were. So again, things that we learned in the first scene ended up being very important in following scenes. Well, this week we're going to focus on how a book is broken down into chapters and that each chapter provides details that helps us understand an event in the next chapter. By third grade, you should be reading chapter books. So think about a book that you've read or are currently reading and think about what happened in one chapter that built into the events of the next chapter. You don't have an assignment specifically, except that I would like for you to read a chapter book on your own. Okay, our writing skill, where our standard says that we're going to write sentences that include comparative and superlative adjectives and adverbs. Last week we focused on adjectives. Comparative adjectives compare two things by adding ER, two letters, to the end of an adjective. So when we say Billy is tall, that's an adjective. Sammy is taller than Billy. We're now comparing two people, so we added ER, two letters. For a superlative adjectives, we're comparing three or more nouns, and we add the suffix est, three letters. Joe is the tallest boy in the whole third grade class. So I am saying that Joe is tall, but in comparing him to all the boys in the third grade class, so that is more than three, I added est to the adjective tall. Now this week we're going to focus on adverbs. Adverbs describe or tell more about verbs. They tell when, where, and to what extent. But the rules for comparative and superlative are the same. If we're comparing two verbs or actions, we'll add ER to the adverb. If we're comparing three or more verbs or actions, we'll add EST to the adverb. Click here to watch a video on adverbs and then go to Edmentum, do faster than light. And remember that Edmentum has three parts, a lesson, a practice, and a quiz. Be sure to do all three because this is for a grade. For spelling, Right now I don't have an assignment in there. I need to double check on that. But we are focusing on learning conventional spelling rules. For instance, with our comparative and superlative adjectives, when we add er or est to the end of a word, if it already ends in e, then we drop the e before we add that. If it ends in a y, we change the y to I before we add the suffix. Your special for today is art. If you'll click here to go to your art course to do your assignment for Miss Miller. And we're about halfway through our day, so this might be a good time to take a snack and wiggle break. And then I will see you at about 1:15 for a Zoom. Please make sure you have paper and pencil when you're coming to Zoom. Make sure we are in a room that is quiet, that I can hear you, and that you're there for a question or some help, not just to play. Okay, because if I'm trying to work with and talk with somebody and answer some questions, we're not just on there to giggle and play around. Be sure you're coming to a math Zoom for information, some more help in math. All right, boys and girls, I hope to see you today at either 10 or 11, or 10 or 1.